Now, let's hear another example of Democrats engaging in reckless rhetoric, particularly knowing how unstable and prone to violence their supporter base can be. Here is California Governor Gavin Newsom, the man who wants to fail his way up to the White House. Here he is with Stephen Colbert, demonising ICE agents who are just doing their jobs.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process. No oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country.
You know, the man who imposed pointless mask mandates on Californians during COVID suddenly seems very triggered by masks being worn to protect the identity of ICE agents from the left's violent, radicalised activists. Gavin doesn't seem to get that.
ICE, unmasked. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
A few days after those comments, an anti-ICE gunman, Joshua Jahn, launched a deadly attack on an ICE field office in Dallas. The FBI revealed this lunatic had expressed a desire to instill terror in ICE agents, but in his botched attack, he managed to only kill and injure detained migrants. Let's bring in documentary filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, Democrats love to lecture everyone about turning down the temperature, but they continue to paint their political opponents as fascists. And got another example here, Gavin Newsom's official press office posting this, saying Stephen Miller is a fascist in all capitals. It's just tantamount to incitement, isn't it, Ami?
Of course. Look, Chris Murphy, who is a professional idiot and is cosplaying as a congressperson, specifically said that that kind of language is not incitement because they're focusing on the definitional language of incitement is a legal definition, and they're trying to say it hasn't reached that legal definition which you can be jailed for. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what does one's rhetoric directly lead to. I don't know what you expect when you see all of this leftist violence this year, when you've spent the last year talking about Donald Trump, his policies, as a fascist, as a Nazi, as the man who will steal democracy from you. What do you expect people to do? And by the way, I want to make one other point. I've said this in the past, I'll say this again. All of this, by the way, is going to pale in comparison to what the future terrorism is going to be, which is eco-terrorism. We've seen shades of it before, and these permission structures are already in place to allow for it. It's going to blow all terrorism away, pun intended, when that becomes the mainstream focus of terrorism.
Now, talking about Gavin Newsom there, his failures haven't stopped him from being a front-runner to be the Democrats' next presidential candidate. Ami, he failed as San Francisco mayor, he's failed as California governor, but he really doesn't face too much opposition. In fact, this is his major competition.
A tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump.
Where to for the Democrats? They've got Gavin, they've got Kamala, who's doing her book tour. Who is their next leader? Because at some point, and some point shortly, they need to come up with a credible candidate to fight the 2028 election. They seem to be completely lost. They've got the most radical voices who seem to be dominating at the moment, the AOCs and Jasmine Crockett's and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, they're the heroes of the Democratic Party, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't hear large-scale opposition to Mamdani, running as an open socialist / communist in New York. By the way, and in that clip you played of Kamala, she was part of that permission structure we've been talking about saying, hey, demonizing President Trump as a communist dictator. I mean, this is insanity. This is a mainstream politician speaking like this. Look, I don't know if you guys have this and you're crazy.
And Ami, right after that, sorry to interrupt, but right after she called Donald Trump a communist dictator, she went on to endorse Mamdani, an actual communist, for the next mayor of New York. So the permission structures you're talking about, they're completely lost, the Democrats. Where are their values? I mean, where are they so far left now that the AOCs and Jasmine Crockett's are now really their mainstream? Or is there a sensible Democrat demographic that's going to come to the fore in the next year or so?
Yeah, no, they are mainstream. As I said, they're heroes, the Democratic Party. Look, you talk about, is there a mainstream candidate? Yeah, I suppose Josh Shapiro is. He's running at the end of the pack for the 2028 Democratic nomination in the recent polls. Kamala Harris, you just talked about, who lost her race, she lost, is still in the last 14 different polls they've had that have come out this year. She is first or second in most of them, okay? She is absolutely, she has gunning for this nomination. She turned down the gubernatorial race in California because she wants to keep her options open for the race in 2028. She's still involved in national political debate. She's still fundraising. She's still going to all the meetings. Yeah, no, she's absolutely, right now, she's one of the people, the leaders in the clubhouse. And yeah, and by the way, don't sleep on Gavin Newsom. You talked about before. I know we all see him as a clown, which he is. But what I'm telling you is there's a reason why he won over and over again as governor of California. He knows he can hide his radical policy, and he does in fact fake it as a mainstream politician. He knows how to debate very well. I know we laugh at him on our side, but the truth is he's very, very good at it. I would not sleep on him at all.
No, he was even trying to be the sensible centrist, despite what he's done to California, sitting down with conservatives. He even had Charlie Kirk on his podcast, and he's trying to present a very different image that is a bit more palatable to people outside of California. We'll see how that goes. Now, President Trump is determined to clean up Portland. He wants to restore law and order and hold Antifa accountable for the violence and destruction that they engage in regularly. You went to Portland during the BLM Antifa riots of 2020. Let's have a quick look at what you captured.
Even after they were attacked with glass, bottles, and rocks. At one point, I was hit by a propelled gas canister. There were groups of people interrogating journalists. They warned me that if I portrayed the protesters in a negative light, I would face street justice. And after being recognized, I was pelted with broken glass. In the words of the protesters that I spoke to, the goal of these protests is to encourage societal breakdown so that it could be rebuilt in their own warped image.
Ami, that was 5 years ago. How much have things changed in Portland? President Trump wants Antifa to be designated a domestic terror group, but Democrats and many in the media claim that Antifa doesn't even exist. It's not an organised group. It's just packs of people who come together occasionally to burn down things and bash people. How do you see it? You've been there on the ground. Is there a need for intervention?
Yeah, you asked me how much has changed since that video that I shot nearly 5 years ago. Zero has changed, Rita. Zero. It continues to this day. You know what I hate? I hate the fact that my videos tend to be evergreen. You can show a video just like that. And by the way, most people, if you didn't say what year it was, would think it's happening now because the attacks on federal buildings across our country and the continued attack on ICE facilities and government buildings in Portland. Look, there is this narrative that Antifa is not a thing. It's a figment of the right-wing imagination. I've been undercover with Antifa, right? I have gone and met with Antifa. They have threatened me over and over again, both online and in person. No, they are real, okay? They are funded. They have a plan, and their plan is destruction of our society. They are the soldiers of the left wing, the literal soldiers of the left wing. Look, when you go to these places, right, and you see Antifa, for example, when you go to Chaz, right? Do you remember when Seattle was taken over by Antifa?
Oh, yes.
And all these places, they dress the same. They're armed the same. Yes, they are armed. They wear insignias. They have the same banners. Don't lie to me and tell me that they're nothing, right? That they're just some random people coming up and putting on this Antifa label. Yes, they don't have a president. They don't have a particular hierarchical structure. But look, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. They have chapters, right? Specifically, the Rose Antifa chapters, the chapter in Portland, right? The John Brown Gun Club in Seattle. These are actual chapters. If you go to the Anarchist Handbook, right, the Anarchist Handbook Library, they specifically set out how do you create your own chapter. And they have a set of terms you have to abide by, okay? So don't lie to me and tell me they don't exist. They do, and they are a threat, a true threat to us and our democracy.
Ami Horowitz, thank you so much.